What is art, really? The answer tends to vary from person to person. For me, art is any means through which people can express themselves. Drawing, writing, dancing, music. But then, what does it truly mean to express oneself? Some have called combat an art. Others would consider sport a valid medium. Some may even find meaning in something as macabre as murder. The killer artist is not the most common archetype out there, but it does exist. There are characters who consider the very act of taking a life to be avant-garde, finding a sort of twisted beauty in a person's final moments. With an ever-growing and ever-expansive roster such as leagues, it was only a matter of time before Riot tried their hand at creating a champion who embodied this trope as well. That character was actually Aatrox prior to his rework, but Riot decided that wasn't literal enough, so they gave us Jhin instead. Released February 1st, 2016, Jhin has become something of an icon within the League of Legends community. While he doesn't quite have the poster character status of other champions like Yasuo, Lux, or Echo, he's nonetheless become a bit of a fan favorite. But why? What is it about this masked weirdo that people find so compelling? And does he really deserve all the attention? Well, let's take a look at his bio and find out. The actual origins of the man known as Kara Jhin are shrouded in mystery and obscured by legend. Many years ago, a series of horrific murders took place in Ionia's southern mountains. Murders that people attributed to a figure called the Golden Demon. It's not actually clear exactly why they called him that, but I digress. It fell to 3 members of the Kinku Order to investigate this figure and restore balance to the realms. Master Kusho and his sons, Shen and Zed. The trio worked tirelessly for 4 years straight to follow the trail, and when they eventually found the culprit behind the murders, they were shocked to learn that it was no demon at all, but a simple stagehand working in the theaters and opera houses of a place called Zion. Needless to say, it wasn't hard for 3 trained warriors to subdue him, but there was some disagreement about how to handle Jhin once they had him. Zed wanted to execute the man for all the murders he had committed, but Kusho claimed that doing so would not only violate Kinku law, it could also lead to some serious uproar if people found out that the Golden Demon was just some guy all along. Thus, Kusho opted to have Jhin locked away in secret at Tula Prison, even though his choice would be the beginning of a growing rift between his family. Worse still, Jhin would not remain locked away forever. His years in prison revealed him to be gifted in many forms of art, yet the one he longed to indulge the most was murder. Eventually, following the war with Noxus, Jhin would be set free by a yet unknown group and given an arsenal of what can only really be called Ionian hex tech, with which to begin committing murders all over again. It seems that whoever Jhin's patrons might be, they want to use this serial killer as a means of testing out their new experimental weapons. In exchange for his cooperation, Jhin is given seemingly free rein to kill as he pleases, though it does seem like some of his targets are chosen for him while others are of his own design. Eventually, Jhin's benefactors send him to Piltover, though it's unclear exactly why. He has a run-in with Camille and the Enforcers, but evidently survives and escapes this encounter, only to be tracked down by Shen and Zed, who have put aside their rivalry to unite against their old foe. Oh, and Akali is there too, I guess. Anyway, the ninjas defeat Jhin, but just as before, there is some debate about whether he should live or die. Since this comic was written before Riot got comfortable with removing Champion's plot armor, Zed relents and allows Shen to lock the Virtuoso up again. Then goes to have a deal with Master Kusho, but that's a whole other talking point. Now, that is the end of Jhin's current story as far as we know, but Riot did retroactively add a little bit more to him with Hui's release. At some point before being locked up the first time, Jhin paid a visit to the monastery where Hui was training and caused the young archmage to accidentally burn the whole place to the ground. He now represents a sort of metaphorical demon in Hui's story, but we've already gone over all of that in the Let's Talk About Hui video. So I'll just get right to the point. I have nothing against Jhin as an actual character. If anything, I do find his premise compelling. He's a killer artist roaming the world, murdering people for the sake of his so-called artistic vision with a supply of Ionian hex tech devices. He's a man capable of being and acting completely rational and sane, but just has this one inherent peculiarity that drives him to commit acts of utter madness. He also has an obsession with the number 4 that's influenced by Japanese culture, which the community has turned into a bit of a meme, but that's neither here nor there. My issue with Jhin is more so how Riot has utilized him over the years. Like, the premise makes it sound like his thing would be traveling the world and getting into conflicts with various other champions and factions in pursuit of his art. I mean, Jin's teaser on the old website had him seemingly trying to assassinate 4 totally unconnected characters and framing their deaths like morbid paintings. He's a villain who could slot himself pretty well into any ongoing storylines simply because he sees the opportunity to create another masterpiece. Instead, Jhin has been slotted retroactively into pre-existing storylines that honestly didn't need him. Like, seriously, his backstory really just has him serving as an additional catalyst for the eventual divide between Zed and Shin. Like their opposing ideologies weren't already enough. Similarly, Jin acts as a catalyst for Hui's inner turmoil, though it really doesn't feel necessary there either. That's really what it boils down to for me. Jin's story isn't about Jin. It's about how Jin apparently caused a bunch of trauma in other champions' childhoods. And, like, sure, that sort of makes sense given that he's a serial killer, but you'd think the obvious direction to go in there would at least involve Jin murdering people the champions were close to. Like, maybe Jin could have actually been the one who killed Master Kusho, framing it on Zed instead of the weird conspiracy plot we got in the comics. As for Hui, the two might work better as actual rivals as opposed to Jin just being a background element in Hui's story. Seriously, the two haven't even met since the monastery's destruction as far as we know. There just seems to be a weird hesitation for Riot to utilize one of their most popular villains in any meaningful way, which is a genuine shame considering how much potential Jin has for storytelling. I mean, again, his teaser on the old website had him seemingly targeting 4 different characters across Runeterra, yet Jin only wound up having any connection to just one of them. It just kind of seems like a bit of a waste to me. But what do you all think? Do you feel like Jin could do more to live up to his potential, or do you like the way his story has been handled so far? Leave your thoughts and comments down below, and until next time, stay bright.